Hey guys, welcome to our daily encounter. I really like how the book of Zechariah ends with the theme of holiness. After all is said and done, after all the prophecies are given, the book ends with holiness. He says, starting in verse 20 of chapter 14, in that day there will be inscribed on the bells of the horses, holy to Yahweh, and the pots in the house of Yahweh will be like the bowls before the altar. And every pot in Jerusalem and in Judah will be holy to Yahweh of hosts, and all who sacrifice will come and take of them and boil in them. And there will no longer be a Canaanite in the house of Yahweh of hosts in that day. And so you can see that this book ends with the idea of holiness. And it seems to be in connection to the church. Jerusalem here signifying the church. And it talks about a time when the bells of the horses will say, holy to Yahweh. If you remember, on the headpiece of the priest, it would say, holy to the Lord, holy to Yahweh. But now the horses have that engraved on them. And this seems to indicate that wherever the people go, everywhere that they are directed, they will be preceded by holiness. But then it goes on to talk about the pots. And it says, and the pots in the house of Yahweh will be like the bowls before the altar. And there the house of Yahweh, in all likelihood, is speaking about the same house that is spoken about in Ephesians chapter 2, in verse 19, where it says, so then you are no longer strangers and sojourners, but you are fellow citizens with the saints and are of God's household. He says, in that household, even the pots will be like the bowls that were before the altar. Just what would typically be common pots would be like the holy, sanctified bowls before the altar. It says in verse 21, and every pot in Jerusalem and in Judah will be holy to Yahweh of hosts, and all who sacrifice will come and take of them and boil in them. In other words, there would be so saturated with holiness that everything would be holy. It wouldn't just be some bowl in front of an altar, but everything in Jerusalem, everything that they contacted, everything that they made use of would be holy. And I think this is a beautiful picture of what we experience through Christ as the church. You know, this idea that, there are some things that are spiritual, some things that are secular, and I understand the terminology behind, or the reason for that terminology. It's a convenient way of just speaking about the difference between things that are spiritually themed and those things which are not. But really, when it comes to the believer, everything should be holy. In a real sense, there should be nothing that is secular in our lives, because everything that we do, everything that we contact in life, if we are doing it all for the glory of God, and if we're doing it in prayer and devotion to God, all of it can be saturated with holiness as we sanctify it through prayer and through our devotion to the Lord, to where even common pots can be seen as holy. Or we might say, even washing the dishes can be a holy event. As we're washing dishes and praying to the Lord, worshiping the Lord, we're engaged in that activity with our own, positional holiness, but also exemplifying practical holiness. Whether we're walking the dog, whatever we might do, if we're doing it for the Lord, and if we are doing it with our minds centered on Christ and on the Spirit, and we're doing it in prayer, then we sanctify those things, and those things become, in a sense, holy. Even common pots and just normal, average activities can become very wonderful activities in which we can draw close to the Lord, and to where everyone can see that even the normal things in our lives are holy. And it says, all who will sacrifice will come and take of them and boil in them. Others will come and participate in that particular activity. So today's reading, the end of the book of Zechariah, shows us really what the end of the spiritual life is all about. Yes, it's wonderful that the Lord has saved us, that He's shed His blood for us, that we could be cleansed, that we could stand before God as righteous. And all those things are wonderful, but they all should issue into an experience of holiness. Positional holiness, as we've been set apart unto God through the blood of Christ, but also in this continual sanctification process in which we continue to walk in that holiness in a very practical way. And as we do that, everything that we touch, everything that we do, everything that we come into contact with will be affected by the holy lives that we are living and by the holy ways in which we are responding to the circumstances in life. And hopefully Zechariah chapter 14, verses 20 and 21 will put that to the forefront of our minds and help us to put that into practice. And with that, guys, I do thank you for watching the video today. Hope you guys have a great day. Love you guys. God bless.